Well, it's been an extraordinary year, I think, both for me personally, but I'd also say for the whole of the armed forces. Dominated, I think, by Ukraine and the support that we provided to Ukraine, but also that shock of war once again in Europe, and that support across all domains. So whether it's our civil servants in Abbey Wood finding the kit and getting that to Ukraine, whether it's our people further forwards, whether it's an amazing job by the British Army to be training nearly 10,000 Ukrainians, and everything that goes with that. That's been a dominant piece, and our linking in with our international partners. It was very sad in terms of Her Majesty the Queen and the funeral, but I also am proud in terms of the role that the armed forces played, and both our duty to His Majesty the King, our respect to Her Majesty the Queen, and reflecting what I think was part of the mood of the nation. I think Ukraine will dominate as we step into 2023. We've got to continue doing what we're doing, continue this training effort in the UK of Ukrainian soldiers, and an ambition to train over 20,000 next year. We also will continue with our support and see this through. And then we'll look at some of the specifics. We have said that we will provide much more in terms of air defence, not just the UK, but working with our international partners to respond to these hideous attacks that are effectively on civilians and on civilian infrastructure, and look to protect Ukraine much more effectively. And then I think some of the other big challenges for us are we want to continue modernising our armed forces. We've got a big agenda that was set out last year in the integrated review. It's across all three services. We need to keep getting on with that. Some of that is big pieces of kit. You've seen some recent announcements, particularly for the Navy and the solid support ship, the Batch 2 Type 26. But we're getting on with other things. We're sorting out Ajax. We're continuing to bring in the A400M for the Royal Air Force. We're paying off the C-130s. And then we've got to do some of these other aspects. When we say about a digital backbone, it sounds a bit blarish, but actually how do we become a much more modern armed forces? We're a much better connected across every element, and how do we bring that to bear so that we can be even more effective at warfighting? How do we embrace space and cyber in a much stronger way? So that modernisation agenda continues. And then I think we've also got a big cultural agenda. We need to be an even more effective armed forces that's looking to recruit from the whole of the nation. And there's a search for talent for every large organisation. And so we don't want to exclude anybody. We want to embrace the best talent in the country, and we want that to be as broad as possible, and that's part of our agenda as well. And we know that we've got more to do there. At Christmas time, we serve the nation and we get on with our duty. And I think that's the crucial thing about wearing uniform, that we serve our nation and we don't have a veto on what we're asked to do. We have a duty to respond to those requests, and that's what we will do. So my message is thank you. My message, particularly to the families and loved ones, I think it's tougher for them. I've had numerous Christmases away. I think that quite often a unit that's away comes together, again, looks after each other. Yes, it's tough being away, but also make the most of it and look after each other. But I thank people for their service, and I especially thank families and friends. And the families and friends, I think it's a bit tougher in my experience. But we've got to acknowledge that that's what we do. That's part of our service to the nation. People serving all over the world. So whether it's the ships in the Indo-Pacific, whether it's our troops in Estonia, in Poland, whether it's the continuous at sea deterrent in the North Atlantic, whether it's people at home, they may be on some of those MACA tasks, they might be looking after Buckingham Palace or looking after Windsor. There's a whole myriad of duties, And I'm immensely grateful for what people do all the time, but especially grateful for those that are serving at Christmas. And thank you for what you do day in, day out.